Let's be honest for a second. You don't need another 3-hour podcast. You don't need a highlight reel from someone else's life. You need clarity. You need direction. I'm going to feel. And more than anything, you need a reason to keep going. This isn't hype. This isn't noise. This is you standing face to face with the one person who can change it all yourself. This is the moment you decide to stop running on autopilot, to stop living by default, and start living by design. So if you're tired of feeling stuck, if you're done letting the day own you instead of the other way around, then watch this every single day. And remind yourself you are not here to survive. You are here to build. That's where I'm going to feel. Discipline is louder than motivation because it doesn't wait for the right mood, the perfect conditions, or an emotional high. It shows up in silence. When no one's watching, that's where I'm going to feel. When no one's applauding, everything you say is to take it easy, to rest, to delay. Motivation is temporary. It's a spark. But discipline is the engine. That's where I'm going to feel. It's the part of you that gets out of bed at 5 a.m. even when the alarm feels like a hammer. It's brushing your teeth, hitting the gym, making that call, showing up to your commitments, not because you're in the mood, but because it's what needs to be done. Motivation fades. It fades when you're tired, when things get hard, gonna feel. When progress is slow, discipline remains. It shows up in your tone of voice, in your choices, in the structure of your day. That's where a reason a writer finishes a book after years of drafts, why an athlete practices after the crowd goes home, I'm gonna feel. Why a business owner keeps pushing through losses and learning curves. Discipline is what takes over when the emotional energy runs out. It turns chaos into rhythm. It's not loud or flashy. It's quiet, repetitive, and often uncomfortable. But that's why it works. Because while motivation whispers sweet nothings in your ear, I'm gonna feel. Discipline writes the contract. It holds you accountable. And that matters because success isn't built on the days you feel good. It's gonna feel. It's built on the days you feel nothing and still act. The gap between who you are and who you want to be is bridged by what you do daily, not occasionally. That's where I'm gonna feel. Not when it's convenient, not when it feels good. Daily. Discipline teaches your mind to serve your goals, not your feelings. You stop needing to be in the mood to be consistent. That's where I'm gonna feel. You stop waiting for inspiration to act. Instead, you act and inspiration shows up later. You become the kind of person who follows through, who can be trusted, who gets things done. I'm gonna feel. And over time, that shapes not just what you accomplish, but who you are, because every time you choose discipline over comfort, you reinforce your identity. You prove to yourself that you're not here to play small, not here to coast through life on temporary bursts of motivation. You're here to build something meaningful, gonna feel. You're here to keep your word. You're here to outlast, outwork, and outperform what you used to settle for. Discipline builds character. It builds self-respect. That's where I'm gonna feel. It teaches you how to endure, how to push through, how to lead yourself even when the lights are off and no one's clapping. Discipline is the decision to become more, one small choice at a time. It is the ability to say no to what feels good now so you can say yes to what matters most later. It is showing up when your body is sore. That's where I'm gonna feel. When your mind is foggy, when your heart isn't in it, because the mission still is. That's where I'm gonna feel your habit either building your future or burying it. There is no neutral. Every choice you make, no matter how small, is a vote for the kind of life you're gonna live. That's where I'm gonna feel. The way you wake up, the way you speak to yourself, the way you manage your time, how you eat, how you move, how you think. These aren't just routines, they're bricks. And every single day you are laying those bricks down consciously or unconsciously. Over time, they form something solid, a structure, a life, a reality. That's where I'm gonna feel. The scary part is that many people don't even realize they're building something destructive until they're buried in the weight of their own decisions. They don't see the late nights, the skipped workouts, the procrastination, the mindless scrolling, the poor eating, the toxic self-talk as anything serious. But those moments add up. That's where I'm gonna feel. Just like drops of water carve out rock, tiny daily actions shape the landscape of your life. And that shaping happens with or without your permission. If you think you're standing still, think again. There is no standing still. You are either getting sharper or duller, closer to who you wanna be or further from it, or I'm gonna feel, or more disciplined. The good news is you're in control. No. That toothbrush you pick up every morning, that's a habit. The journal you open, the 10-minute walk, the decision to drink water instead of soda. It all counts. Habits are the compound interest of self-development. They might not make a difference today or tomorrow, or I'm gonna feel, or even this month. But give it 6 months, give it a year, and you'll wake up one day and realize you either built something powerful or buried yourself in regret. I'm gonna feel. Habits are a mirror. They reflect what you value, what you tolerate, what you prioritize. They don't lie. You can say you want to be healthy, but your habits will show the truth. That's where I'm going to feel. You can say you want financial freedom, but your spending and saving habits will speak louder. You can say you want to be focused and driven, but Your daily distractions will make your case for you. This is why change doesn't start with big declarations or emotional highs. It starts with awareness, with tracking, with replacing one tiny choice at a time. Sap 10 minutes of social media for 10 minutes of reading. Trade an hour of Netflix for 30 minutes of planning. I'm going to feel. Replace the fast food with one clean meal. Your habits don't have to be perfect. They just need to be intentional. Direction matters more than speed. The key is not doing massive things occasionally, but doing the small, right things consistently. What you repeat, you reinforce. What you reinforce, you become. That's where I'm going to feel. The future you want isn't found in some far-off destination. It's built in the day-to-day grind, in the moments no one else sees, in the spaces where it's easier to quit, but you don't. You want to change your life, you change your habits. Not once, not sometimes, every day. I'm going to feel. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. Everyone sets goals. Everyone talks about what they want. The dream body, the financial freedom, the successful business, the peaceful life. But wanting is not the same as building. Goals are the destination, but systems are the vehicle. And if the vehicle is broken, going to feel, it doesn't matter how clear or exciting the destination is, you're not getting there. Most people think they lack motivation when what they actually lack is structure. That's where I'm going to feel. They aim high, but when the pressure hits, they default to the routines they've practiced the most. And if those routines are weak, undisciplined, or inconsistent, that's where I'm going to feel. The outcome will reflect that. It's not about how badly you want it. It's about how well you're prepared to get it. Systems are the daily patterns that carry you forward. They're the schedules you create, the boundaries you enforce, the processes you build to make success automatic instead of accidental. If your goal is to be healthy, your system better include regular workouts, meal planning, sleep routines, and hydration, not just a wish to lose weight. If your goal is to write a book, the system is not thinking about it. It's sitting down every day at 6 a.m. to write 500 words, even when you don't feel like it. If your goal is to grow a business, the system includes lead generation, content creation, time blocking, delegation, and review, not just hoping for growth. Systems turn chaos into order. They protect your energy. They remove decision fatigue. They replace willpower with rhythm, because willpower is a limited resource, but a good system makes the right action the default action. That's where I'm going to feel. It removes friction. It creates momentum. Without a system, even the most motivated person burns out. With a system, even a tired, uncertain person can make progress. Systems make success boring, and that's the point. If you only act when it feels exciting or new, you'll stop when the novelty wears off. But when you build a system, progress becomes sustainable. It becomes predictable. It becomes a natural byproduct of your daily life, not a random achievement. And that's where I'm going to feel. And that's where transformation lies, in the consistency, not the intensity. Goals are good for direction, but systems are essential for execution. They determine how quickly, that's where I'm going to feel, and how efficiently and how confidently you move forward. The gap between idea and execution is always filled by structure. I'm going to feel. And here's the truth. Your current life is already a product of your systems, whether you design them or not. If you're feeling overwhelmed, unproductive, or stuck, feel, chances are you've been operating inside systems that serve your comfort instead of your growth. But you can redesign those. You can disrupt the patterns that aren't working and replace them with new ones. You don't need more inspiration. You need a plan. You need repeatable action. That's where I'm going to feel. You need clarity on what you're doing, when you're doing it, and how you're tracking progress. That's what separates dreamers from doers, talkers from builders, temporary wins from lasting change. Every excuse you make is a trade-off for the life you could have had. Excuses don't just delay progress. They replace it. They cost you more than time. They cost you confidence. I'm going to feel momentum and self-respect. Every time you say, I'm too tired, I don't have time, or maybe tomorrow, you're choosing comfort over growth. That's where I'm going to feel. And that choice doesn't disappear. It compounds. Excuses feel harmless in the moment, but they create a pattern, a mindset, a life. I'm going to feel. They quietly shape your future while giving the illusion that you're still in control. But control isn't in the words you say. It's in the actions you take. People don't fail because they're not talented enough. They fail because they believe their own excuses. They let feelings dictate behavior. They let fear pose as logic. That's where I'm going to feel. They justify inaction stories they've told themselves so many times that those stories start to sound like truth. But the truth is this, that's where your excuses don't protect you, they trap you. They create a version of yourself that's always close but never arriving, always aiming, never hitting, always dreaming, never building. And it starts small. One skip workout becomes a week off. One snoozed alarm becomes a month of missed mornings. One I'm going to feel, I'll do it later, becomes a habit of delay that slowly becomes your identity. And by the time you realize what happened, you've traded progress for potential. That's where I'm going to feel. You've built a version of yourself that's more familiar with regret than resilience. The hard part is that excuses often come dressed as valid reasons. You convince yourself that circumstances are too difficult, that timing isn't right, that other people have it easier. But someone with fewer resources, less time, that's where I'm going to feel. And more obstacles is already doing what you keep postponing. The difference isn't conditions, it's commitment. You don't need perfect conditions to start. You need responsibility. Because ownership destroys excuses. When you take full responsibility for your life, you stop blaming your past, your parents, your boss, or your situation. That's where you stop waiting for someone to rescue you. You realize that while you're not to blame for everything that happened to you, you are responsible for what you do next. And that's where I'm going to feel. And that's where power lies. In the next choice, in the decision to show up anyway, in the refusal to give your excuses more authority than your goals. You either make excuses, you're going to feel, or you make progress, but you don't get both. Every time you push through, even when it's inconvenient, even when it's uncomfortable, you take a piece of your power back. You are going to feel, you rewire your mindset. You prove to yourself that you're not at the mercy of your circumstances. You're in command of your choices. Excuses will always be available. That's where I'm going to feel. They're easy, they're comfortable, and they're socially accepted. But so is mediocrity. So is staying stuck. So is being half alive. That's where I'm going to feel. The life you want, the version of you that's focused, disrespected, and fulfilled requires a brutal kind of honesty. I'm going to feel. It requires looking your excuses in the eye and choosing not to believe them. That's where I'm going to feel. Focus is your superpower. Protect it like your life depends on it. In a world addicted to distraction, the ability to direct your attention is no longer a luxury. That's where I'm going to feel. It's a competitive advantage. Most people are not losing because they're incapable, losing because they're distracted. They're drowning in notifications. That's where I'm going to feel. Multitasking their goals to death, starting too many things and finishing none. Their energy is divided, their priorities are blurred, and their results reflect that. That's where I'm going to feel. Focus is not just about avoiding distractions. It's about intentional direction. It's choosing what matters most and giving it the time, energy, and depth it deserves. That's where I'm going to feel. It's saying no to the noise so you can say yes to the needle movers. Because every time you switch tasks, every time you check your phone, every time you interrupt flow for a quick scroll, you're not just losing seconds, you're losing depth, clarity, and momentum. Your brain resets, your thoughts scatter, your discipline weakens. And when that becomes your norm, productivity turns to business and progress turns into motion without meaning. Focus is the discipline of attention. That's where I'm going to feel. It's not something you're born with. It's something you train. It begins with boundaries, with deciding that your goals matter enough to protect your time like it's sacred. Because it is. You can always make more money, but you can't make more time. Every hour spent on distractions is an hour stolen from your future. Want to get ahead? Master focus. That means eliminating the unnecessary, reducing inputs, simplifying your environment, and creating systems that make deep work the default. It means setting time blocks, I'm going to feel, turning off alerts, and communicating clear boundaries with the people around you. It means learning how to be alone with your thoughts without needing entertainment every 5 minutes. That's where I'm going to feel. The people who rise to the top in any field aren't always the most talented. They're the most focused. They know what they're building. They know why it matters. That's where I'm going to feel. And they don't allow everything and to interrupt that process. They protect their focus like it's their most valuable currency because they know it is. Every great book, every groundbreaking business, every life-changing transformation was built through periods of deep, focused work, not multitasking, not reactive scrolling. That's where I'm going to feel, not doing 50 things halfway. Real progress demands full presence. It demands your mind, your heart, your will. And here's the truth. If you don't control your focus, someone else will. Algorithms are designed to steal it. Advertisers are trained to hijack it. Social media profits off of it. You don't stand a chance unless you decide that your attention is too valuable to give away for free. Focus is the bridge between intention and execution, between dreaming and doing. It's not about intensity once in a while. It's about consistency daily. It's waking up and deciding that your purpose matters more than your impulses. That's where I'm going to feel that your future deserves more than fragmented thoughts and half-hearted effort. That the ability to sit down, lock in, and build something meaningful is not old-fashioned. It's powerful. Small decisions made daily become the identity you live with permanently. Most people think change happens in big dramatic moments, in sudden breakthroughs, or overnight success, but the truth is far less glamorous and far more powerful. Change happens in the tiny, almost invisible choices you make over and over again. I'm going to feel. It's in the decision to wake up on time when the bed is warm and tempting. It's in the choice to speak kindly to yourself when no one is listening. That's where I'm going to feel. It's in the quiet discipline of logging off, showing up, pushing forward when it's easier to coast. These small decisions don't feel significant at first. That's where I'm going to feel. They don't make headlines. They don't bring applause. They don't even feel like progress. But they're stacking. They're building momentum. They're creating a pattern, a rhythm, a new version of you. And over time, those patterns become your personality. They shape your mindset. They define your standards. You become what you repeat. If you constantly choose excuses over effort, eventually you become someone who expects little from yourself. If you repeatedly choose effort over ease, you become someone who trusts your own strength. It's not about one perfect day. It's about dozens of imperfect days where you still show up. Most people never change, not because they can't, but because they underestimate the power of the small. They wait for a big shift, a big sign, a big push. But transformation is quiet. That's where I'm going to feel. It's subtle. It hides in the routine. The compound effect of small choices, either your biggest asset or your biggest liability. You either use it to build your confidence or you let it silently chip away at it. Every time you say no to a bad habit, you're casting a vote for your future self. Every time you say yes to a difficult but right choice, that's where I'm going to feel. You're strengthening the version of you that follows through. The mirror doesn't lie, and neither does your routine. You want to know who you're becoming? I'm going to feel, look at the small things you tolerate. Look at the standards you keep when no one is watching. Look at how you behave when it's inconvenient, when it's boring. That's where I'm going to feel when it's uncomfortable. That's who you're training yourself to be. Change isn't about doing more. It's about doing what matters more often. Consistency builds identity. I'm going to feel. And identity drives behavior. When you start seeing yourself as someone who eats clean, you start making better food choices automatically. When you believe you're a focused person, you swear going to feel. You stop wasting hours without even realizing it. You don't have to fight so hard when your identity matches your actions. But it starts with the small, the 5-minute journal entry. That's where I'm going to 10 push-ups, the 1 chapter, the glass of water, the deep breath before reacting. They seem meaningless, but they're not. That's where I'm going to feel. They're deposits in the bank of who you're becoming. And if you stay committed to those choices long enough, the results will seem inevitable because they are. What you do daily, you become permanently.